we are going to discuss different types of unconscious bias. The first one is cultural bias. And I spoke about it in the beginning, what we call ethnocentricity or ethnocentrism. It's interpreting and judging based on your own culture, based on your own belief. So your standards are inherent to your own culture. What you perceive good or bad, what you perceive right or wrong, and you start judging everybody based on that. This is what we call cultural bias. The second one is, remember when we did the trust group and we found that we gravitate more with people that we have similarities with? This is what we call the in and out groups. So the people that look like us or think like us are we call the in groups. So they went beyond just feeling that this is the psychology, and they actually tried to find scientific explanation to it. We make snap judgments in milliseconds to navigate towards people, like I said, that we have similarities with. It's called the in groups. So they did like something like similar to MRI testing on brain of groups of people. And they made them think about themselves. And they observed the areas of the brain that gets highlighted when we think about ourselves. And then they made them think about their in-groups or the people that they navigate towards that they feel they're similar to them. The same areas of the brain that got highlighted when they thought about themselves are the same areas of the brain that got highlighted when they thought about in-groups. No problem, Lauren. As groups. So that's why we don't feel threatened when we pick people that are similar to us, because our brain passes it as there is no threat, there is no danger. And that's why I'm telling you, we all have it. But when it comes to out groups or people that are different, they found out that different pathways in our brain get highlighted when we think about people that are not similar to us. And that's why our brain puts the brake, is like, hey, wait a second, there might be a danger here. And that's actually scientific explanation for it. So we don't have to feel guilty about it. Then we have the danger bias. The gender bias. Unconsciously, there are biases against women leaders. Like when we start thinking about men leaders, again, this is generalization, is not stereotyping. We think about men leaders taking charge and providers. And we think about women as caring and nurturing. And we have certain characteristics in our head about how leaders should look like when I discussed the height in the beginning of that. So there is a very famous example, I'm sure some of you already heard it. There was a car accident. A driver was the father and his son. And upon impact, the father died and the son got injured. They took him with an ambulance to a hospital, and he needed a surgery, so they called the neurosurgeon chief of the hospital. The neurosurgeon chief came in and looked at the victim of the accident and said, it's my son, I cannot operate on him. And a lot of people get confused. What does that mean? His father just died. And they don't realize that the neurosurgeon chief can be a female and it's his mother. Because in our mind, a neurosurgeon chief most likely is a male. They found out the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, years and years, decades ago, they found out that most of the musicians that are in their orchestra are men. And they started thinking, why don't we have women that are musicians in the orchestra? So they brought in consultants And then they said, maybe people have bias. So what they did, in order to reduce the bias, they brought like a black curtain and they put it in between the people that are interviewing people and the people that are being interviewed. But they found out that hiring females increased by 1 or 2%. That's it. So they started thinking, were we wrong? Was it just because of capabilities and abilities and we were right from the beginning? And then they thought some more and they realized that their floor are wood. So whenever a female that has a heel comes in, it starts tick, tick, tick. So it, again, even if the black curtain is there, they can hear that it's a female. So they covered the whole floor with carpet. The rate of hiring females increased by 36%. HR departments did some organization did an experience, and they got resumes for people they wanted to hire for certain positions. And what they did, they removed the names of the participants. And they passed the resumes to the people that check, you know, who they're going to hire or to interview. And they found out that the interviews for females and people of color increased like 38% because they removed the bias. And one of the things also that we tell people when they do, specifically people like in higher position, just don't share more than 15 years of your experience. Because if you share like 25, 30, 35, it gives away your age, and there might be ageism, which is a bias against age. So these are all things, believe it or not, unfortunately, that we need to take care of, even if the people that do the interviews have the best intentions, but they don't realize that they have bias. Another unconscious bias is disability bias, when people with disabilities are looked at as burden or causing more work or even unqualified for the workplace. We were interviewing for a position. We were, I think, 4 on a panel. And we were interviewing someone that will act as typing and filing online folders. So a person came in that was quadriplegic. And we looked at each other and we didn't know what to say. We were ready to say like, okay, you know, but we sat down and we the first question we asked, we said, you're here for interview for this position? And they said yes. So we said that we have a typing test for this job. That's part of the description. And he said, yeah, sure. And he pulled with his teeth like a little stick. And he started typing so fast. You know, and believe it or not, he had all the qualities that we needed for that position, and he got hired. And it was one of the best decisions that that organization ever made. Then we have sexual bias, where we use, for example, the word gay to describe someone that is different. Like it's a hidden message that people who are different are gays.